Brilliant. As you can tell, our major sponsor today is Bremont. Bremont is an award-winning British luxury watch brand manufacturing mechanical watches in Henley-on-Thames in England. Co-founded by brothers Nick and Giles English in 2002, Bremont has made a substantial impact on watchmaking industry in a very short period of time by making considerable investment in their UK watchmaking facility to be able to manufacture their own case and movement components in-house. The brand remains true to its original principles of aviation and military, British engineering and adventure, as well as manufacturing watches for some of the most exclusive military squadrons around the world. Bremont continues to play an influential role in revitalising the British watch industry, the birthplace of numerous timekeeping innovations still used today. Bremont produce durable watches that look good in the boardroom and can survive the deepest oceans and the cold of highest mountains, hence the tagline, tested beyond endurance. The brand is now the top handful of chronometer-rated watch producers in the world. For more information, go to Bremont.com or visit Melbourne Bremont Boutique. Great. Our next sponsor is close to home for me. My good mates Eddie and Bill Overton, growing up in Brisbane with them, they've started off their own company called the LADCOLLECTIVE. They basically want all blokes in Queensland and across Australia to get their sheet together, as they say. So basically, mate, what I was going to explain to you, they've got the best sheets you can possibly have as a bloke. I'm sure club rugby and also you playing yourself, they've seen some dodgy bedrooms going around. And so basically what these guys have done, they've made sheets for blokes as easy as possible. So if you had trouble, as you said before, with your fitted sheets, I don't know how you're going with that.
No, I still can't fit a fitted sheet onto a bed. I'm awful. I'm just no good at any of the housework. I'm awful.
Well, you don't have to have the wife to take control anymore with these bad boys. You've got tags on each corner with bottom left, bottom right, top left, top right. So you just hook in every single time, all good to go. We've got zip-up sheets down the bottom as well and zip-up pillows as well. So it's all clean as. They've got a new range of colours. They're going everywhere right now, selling like hotcakes. They are 60% bamboo, 40% cotton. Yep. They breathe great all seasons. So if you want to check them out, check out their Instagram at the Lad Collective or go to theladcollective.com.au and check out some of their products there. Our next sponsor has happily had us in here, and Anthony knows a lot about it. We've got Mudgee Indigenous Furniture, great sponsor of the podcast, and I think better than ever we get Anthony to explain a little bit about it to us.
Well, Mudgee do all of the furniture that you see here today. We do a really great print on any stationary equipment that you can buy, chairs, acoustics. So it's a great Indigenous furniture company and something I'm really proud of and proud to be a part of. So it's been a pleasure to have the team here today.
Brilliant. Too easy. Well, if you want to get a hold of any of their product, go to www.gbsols.com.au and the shop is at 141A Sylvan Road, Toowong, Queensland 4066. Sweet. Yo, welcome to the very first episode of the After Party podcast powered by AFA. My name is Connor Moroney, your hostess with the mostest. And today we've got a very special guest, one of the hardest hitters in the sport, Anthony Fainga'a. How you going today, mate?
Mate, I'm very well, thanks.
That's good to hear, yeah. Good to hear. So, mate, obviously the Reds are in a good position at the moment. Did you catch the game on the weekend at all?
Yeah, I did. I thought the guys played really well, to be honest. They're a young team. Everyone goes, oh, geez, they're so young and inexperienced. We need other players. For me, you only get experience by playing. So exactly. The guys over the last 2 years have just been given the experience, and that's why they're able to close games out like they did.
Yeah.
And I think what Hunter did with the last play just shows how much they backed themselves. And Jimmy Mackay, their attack coach, would be just thriving on that because he's always about the big plays and taking those chances. So even if it didn't come off, it just sets them up for the whole year.
For sure, I completely agree. Those younger blokes, like we've got Harry Wilson, Fraser McWright, Jordan Petaia, like they've all been chucked into the system very early, and that can kind of go so. Obviously, it's very like an opinionated topic because people think you shouldn't chuck them in too early, but like at the same time, as you said, these guys are proving themselves over and over, and the experience is just going to help. But we'll get into yourself. And I was reading an article about 2 weeks ago, and it was basically talking about how when you're 13, whatever music and whatnot you were listening to at the time, that kind of ends up staying like your favourite artist or your favourite music that you end up listening to now. And I kind of went back and thought about it all, and I'm going through the artists and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty bang on there. And I realised as well it's the same with like a lot of things. And that's why like you guys are such a nostalgic feeling, especially when that 2011 season for you boys there. I was around 13 or 14 at the time, and like...
You make me feel old.
But the Reds were the be-all, end-all at the time then, and like... I really thought about it, and I was like thinking about all my favourite players, like your Digby's, yourself, Genya, Quaid, like they're all going off at that time. So I was going to ask you, around that age as well, when you're growing up in Queanbeyan, what were your sort of like idols and like blokes you looked up to, I suppose, in rugby at that time?
Yeah, when I was young, I don't really ever remember watching too much sport.
Yeah.
Monday to Friday we were playing sport. Every afternoon we were playing league and union. Every morning we were swimming. So there wasn't a whole lot of time. And then on the weekends we were so buggered from training the whole week that we played league on the Saturday and union on the Sunday. So, the only thing that we sort of looked forward to was McDonald's.
Just and to fuel yourself after.
So that was, we used to play so hard just for McDonald's. Because we never ate out during the week. It was just,
after game day,
that's
through
right.
the drive-through.
If we played well, we always...
You're getting that Big Mac.
That's it. And you used to get those, I think as like kids, I'm not sure if you used to have them.
The toys or whatever with them?
Well, no, you used to, if you got man of the match, you got...
Oh, you got the free meal.
You got a free meal. So for us, our rugby league team was sponsored by Macca's, so we were frigging into it. So we made sure we played the very best each week to get that free Happy Meal.
Everyone's just ripping their heads off for the bloody kids' meal.
And in terms of heroes though, we supported the rugby league quite a lot.
Yep.
So the Canberra Raiders were our biggest, we were the biggest fans of the Raiders.
Yeah.
So, obviously Laurie Daly, Mal Meninga, Ricky Stewart, all of those guys were just freaking awesome. And we supported the Raiders through and through. Rugby wasn't really a sport in Queanbeyan at that time. Rugby union really wasn't that big.
Yep.
Obviously Queanbeyan is really built on, really hard-nosed rugby league industry. So that's all we watched was rugby league.
For sure. And so that transition into rugby union, I suppose, came when you went to Eddie's, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's usually what happens with all the leagueies. As soon as they get over to the private school or whatever, they get chucked into the rugby union. I actually went out to Eddie's a couple of years ago. We had to bill it out there when I was playing for Terrace, and we went and stayed out there, and they were actually a great bloody footy team. And
Is this Eddie's Canberra?
Yeah. Was this in the wrong Eddie's that you went to?
No. So I went to St Edmunds in Canberra.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, so we billeted it down in Canberra. There.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, back to the homeland.
Yeah, it was tough nuts out there.
It was. I'm not sure. Did you win?
We actually did win. I don't know how. We got through somehow. They were all talking a big game as well, like all the dad in the car when he'd have to drive us out because he's billeting us. He's like, I don't know how it's going to go for you today, but we got the win and there was an awkward drive home, that's for sure.
Jeez. Eddie's pride themselves on... Eddie's Marist really pride themselves on their rugby, and I think growing up in Canberra, there's sort of Eddie's Marist, Grammar, and a few... there's only two or three real boys schools that play rugby through and through. So I was very lucky to go to one of those rugby schools.
Yeah, for sure.
And it sort of set me up for the rest of my life.
Yeah, definitely. Because I was going to say, like, back to that experience thing, just getting thrown in the deep end is probably the best option when it comes to excelling in your footy. And you were playing first 15 in grade 9, was that right?
Yeah, so I was so lucky. I played my first game at 14.
Oh, hectic.
So I was playing against all... I was 14 years old. They put me at centre. I was playing number 8 1 week, and then they asked if I could play first 15. I said, well, what's first 15 as a year 9? You kind of knew. I was like, first 15, I ain't playing that.
Yeah, sure, because at that time they look like monsters.
That's right. So they've put me to 13 going, it'll be an easier spot for you to play. And from then on, I played every single game, started, and it was such a great experience.
For sure, definitely.
And still now, I do business with some of the guys that I went to school with that I was in year 9, playing with the seniors, and I was sort of known throughout the years going, who was that kid? Why is he even playing with us? And it was just because I was an okay tackler back then.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. And Sire was also in the back row for a period, wasn't he?
Yeah, so both Say and I started in the back row.
Yeah.
Say was the number 8 and I was a flanker.
Yeah.
And then during the first 15, Say would come on as Say would reserve for first 15. We were at that time, our first 15 was very lucky. We had the number 2 hooker in Australia at that time, the schoolboy hooker.
Yep.
And Say had to sit behind him. So Say would play under 16s as a 14-year-old, play under 16s as a number 8, and then reserve for first 15 as a hooker. And I would just play first 15 as a 13.
13, he had his fingers in all the pies. Brilliant. So then, obviously, you played a bit of under 19s and 21s for Australia there, and then you moved on through to the Brumbies at that point. So that pathway, you had a bit of like an issue with your foot at the time, was that correct? Or?
Yeah, so I had a few injuries at the Brumbies. So I was very thankful for the opportunity they gave me.
Yep.
My first year that I signed with the Brums, I went to South Africa in a under-19s tour. I got compartment syndrome, so I was stuck in hospital in South Africa in Durban for probably for about a month, and they said I'd never play rugby again. And then I came back and I got right. Over the next 12 months, my feeling came back into my foot. They said I was able to do contact again. I had a really big, ugly skin graft all over my leg that looked like a really bad burn. Anyway, I went on to play again after 12 months. I came back from the compartment syndrome, and my first game back, I passed the ball, someone tackled me from behind, and I broke all my metatarsals in my foot.
Ugh.
So that happened. Then I came back from that after the next preseason, had a really good preseason, started for the Brumbies as a centre, scored a try, 62nd minute, made half a break, Palm Nonu, Victor Vito came through. My leg was out straight. I tore my whole medial ligament off the bone.
Oh.
I remember screaming. And I was near the sideline at Canberra Stadium, and my mum screaming to Say to come and look after me because I was screaming that loud. It was the most painful thing, but then it just stopped.
It just stopped because right off the bone there.
Yeah, so it just snapped off, but it was okay. Say came and checked on me. I was all right. I walked off the field, and then I had surgery. So back-to-back injuries, and then I took the opportunity to come to Queensland. Yeah,
for sure. And what was that like throughout those periods of time? Because, I mean, it's the worst thing. We see it with guys like Jordan Patea, like pretty much anyone that plays rugby to that level. In that, between, I guess you would have been between 20 and 23 around that time?
What was I? 18. I left school at 18, so between 18 and 21.
Yeah, right.
I left here to come up when I was 21.
Yeah, and so when you hear that news, though, that it's like you're never going to play footy again at that point, what's going through your head? You're just going all systems go, or there's obviously a point where you're like, fuck, what's going to happen?
I thought I was okay, but then I looked at Saya and he was crying, he was bawling his eyes out when the doc said, you'll never play rugby again. So my family was stuck in Australia and couldn't get over to see us or see me. So I was stuck in South Africa, no family except for Saya. I get told that my rugby career has been ended, that I'll never play rugby again. Meanwhile, since I was a kid at 4 years old, 5 years old, that's all I was primed to do was play rugby.
Yeah.
That's all I thought I was ever going to be good at was rugby. So that was a rude shock. And that made me sort of step back and think about the future and what I need to do as an 18-year-old.
Yeah, definitely.
So I went, rugby is fantastic, but I also need to future-proof myself outside of rugby in case this happens again.
And have that backup option for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you've got such a tight bond with Saya, obviously. As brothers can go either way, but as twins, it's usually locked on. But, I mean, I was going to ask you as well, because you guys are sort of like the bloody Gronkowskis of Australia. You've got 4 of you all playing pro footy. What was that like as a child there, and also growing up throughout your teen years? I'm sure the household could have been pretty chaotic at times, having 4 big blokes wrestling around.
It was pretty cool. I can remember the youngest. My father set goalposts up in our backyard, and he faced them the wrong way, and we all had a kicking contest, and our windows were facing the backyard where my father set the goalpost up. And Billy, it was Colby and I. So Sarah, myself, Billy and Colby all set balls up to goal kick, and we're all going to kick at the same time. Colby and I kicked the balls. We went through the post, smashed the 2 glass windows.
Oh, no.
Sarah and Billy missed the goals, and all we can ever remember is that they missed the goals. That the windows that were smashed weren't even an issue.
Mum wasn't happy that day for sure.
Yeah, we got our asses kicked, but it was worth it because I got the goal.
You got the win.
But yeah, my father ended up changing the goalpost to the other side, and yeah, I remember getting hockey gear, and we turned hockey into like Bash Brother hockey.
Yeah.
We could play football, so we end up having the goalie pads on our knees, the mask on, but running around with a football, not a hockey pad, not a hockey ball.
Coles brand NFL.
Yeah, so it was just we did some awful I remember playing on our bikes, our push bikes, just smashing around, thinking it was cool to take our brakes off so we could roll down the hill. And
full steam ahead.
That's it. Yeah, and we used to put our foot on the back of the wheel to stop the wheel. It was awful. We did some really crazy stuff.
But bro, they're the best times, though, especially just mucking around with your brothers. So yeah, we move on to the Reds now. So when you first initially got there, I believe Sire came up with you, and you guys were breaking into a all right squad at the time. Like I think the Reds went on the best path at that point yet. And then you had a season. I read somewhere when I was looking at it, I think you mentioned that they basically said, I think you said in an interview, I think I was quoted, we were the worst investments Queensland Rugby has ever made.
Yeah.
And then you bounced back completely after that. Was that just fuel to the fire for you guys at that point?
Oh, that first year we got up here, we left the Brumbies and they were number one Australian franchise at that time. And no one ever left the Brumbies. So for Sarah and I, born and bred in Canberra, we thought we would always pay for them. And to come to Queensland at that time, the only people in the crowd were our families. We were last. On the Super Rugby ladder, we were last or second last, and that's where we stayed around. And it was a young team. So that first year, we came up thinking we were really king shit, and we weren't. We had to do. There was a lot of hard work to be done. So being quoted, we are the worst investment in Queensland Rugby, probably still holds for the whole time we were there. But we were very lucky. We worked our butts off after that first year, and then Ewan McKenzie got appointed, and he turned things around. He gave us an opportunity, and I think Link said to me, "Don't try to be good at everything. Just focus on one thing, and whatever you're going to be good at, be the very best at."
Yeah,
so I said,
definitely.
Yeah, so I said to Link, I'm not very good at things, but I'll tackle hard and I can run hard. So let me give you those two things and see how I go. It came to a selection of the first game, and Link said for the next 4 or 5 games, you're going to be my number 12, and I'll stay with you, good, bad, or whatever. Win or lose, I'll stick with you. For me, that gave me a bit of confidence.
For sure.
So I knew that no matter how long or how bad I played, I would still get the next week. And I think your biggest fear as a player is that you get held back by, if I throw that pass, am I going to be axed the next week? So it holds you back.
You don't get to express yourself, and especially that 2011 season, that whole back line was pretty much expressing yourself. Like there was crazy cross kicks, like there was a lot of risks taken at all times, but it worked.
And that attack coach, Jim Mackay, he was the attack coach that he is now for the Queensland Reds.
Yeah.
And you can see a lot of that in the play that they're playing now. So for us, that kick across field that Quady did to Digby, that was something we practiced.
Yeah.
The kick that Hunter did on the weekend, that would have been practiced.
For sure.
So
they've just got it in their arsenal at all times.
Yeah, that's right. And it doesn't matter what's thrown at you. And people go, geez, how did you play with Quade? Well, I just had to expect the unexpected.
Yeah,
and that was
definitely.
okay. That was okay for me. I knew I'd played with him for a long time. We played club together. Yeah, he was going away for Wallabies, and he may have got off the bench, and they said, "Oh, mate, you don't need to play." Quady would come back so we could play South together.
Yeah.
So for us, we just loved playing our rugby as a backline, and as players. It was just so enjoyable to play club rugby or premiership rugby.
Yeah, and you just built that chemistry completely within it.
So we had some really good coaching stuff that looked after us as outside of rugby as well. So I think all of that really creates a really good culture, as well as a team that wants to play. We had guys towards that 212, 213, taking pay cuts to stay at the Reds.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to keep the team together.
For sure.
So that's the kind of team that we created, and we were so young and we were quite successful. But the year before, 2 years before, you would have asked who Quade Cooper was, or who Digby, or Kevy or James, or any of those guys, and you go, oh geez, I don't really know. And it's a bit like the Reds. And then
that happened with me at Quade. Like, I remember seeing Quade down at Jeeps one time, because I played at Jeeps when I was a junior, and I remember because my dad used to play for the Reds and he knew one of the boys there. I think Quade had to go out there that arvo, and no one knew who he was, and someone was like, oh yeah, get his autograph, he's going to be the next big thing. And I was like, oh yeah, whatever, got him to sign my school shirt at the time, and then 2 years later he's absolutely killing it.
Yeah, and it was, that's right. 2 years later, the team plays really well, and without Quade, the backline doesn't function. Without Will or Digby, everyone had their own positions and everyone knew what they had to do. It wasn't just, you needed someone to do the grunt work. Yeah. Digby was there. Digby acted like another forward. So really, instead of having 8 forwards, you had 9, because Digby would do the pick and goes. He was the backline runner. He was the guy that when nothing went right or you needed some momentum, let's give it to Digby. He had the strongest legs, and we used to call him, he's called the ass man because he doesn't have an ass, but he's built like he's the hardest guy to tackle.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you're exactly right. And he's what a lot of wingers should really look at is just getting involved. Like, you can very easily get stuck out on the wing and not get involved, but he'd be looking for the ball as much as possible.
That's right. And then you have the other winger, Rod Davies, who's just lightning quick.
Wheels, yeah.
So we had 2 different kind of players, and then we had Will Chambers. People forget that Will Chambers was a part of that team.
Reds. Yeah, I know.
We had Ben Tapawai. We had John O'Lance that was playing 10, that we had playing as a fullback. And we were using him we're using Quade as a quarterback. Yeah. So essentially, Quade would attack at number 10 and then defend at 15.
Yeah, exactly.
So we sort of played we played a bit of NFL. And I can remember the defensive coach now for the Wallabies. We played a lot of. It was I was a roaming centre, so I could go anywhere. So from line out, my whole job in that grand final was to smash Brad Thorne and to get to Sonny Bill. So we knew they were their key go-to men off the back of the lineouts. So I could roam the back line. As soon as the ball came off, I was independent of the whole line.
Yep. So
if you watch me,
your license, you're just shooting out.
Yeah. So I had
decimate someone.
So I had a license to dive at people's knees.
The ACL collector.
That's it. So I was. You see me flying from 13. So I used to have to blindside because they were so big.
Yeah.
So I was blindsiding the guys from the side, or coming from 10, or coming from blind winger, or coming from 10, coming from the wing, wherever I could, just to And I remember watching, knowing exactly whose shoulder would turn. If it was Sonny, when he was getting a ball, he would preempt where he was going. Thorny used to come out a little bit later, so I knew when he was coming out. So I would duck to 13 and blindside him. But it was just, they're the memories that I take from those games.
For sure. I mean, I guess at that end, because we saw Hunter absolutely crucify someone against the Rebels last week. He just came out of nowhere, and it's that angle, hey, like when you're at 13, people don't realise, like when it hits, it hits. And Matty, but like if you miss it, like that could be a try, like a full-field try in a way.
That's it. And I think in Super Rugby, compared to, as you start to go higher, if you miss one tackle, it's nearly a try.
Yeah.
Especially in the midfield. So, because as soon as you get past that first line, there's not a whole lot. And by the time you turn, all of the supporting players are through the line and gone.
Yeah. So I think that's like, people notice that as well. Like even as you start to step up, like even from like reserve grade to prem grade and prem grade upwards, like you notice like if you miss this tackle here, the coach is going to be in your grill. So like you usually try to make the hits.
I think Hunter's timing, and I think that the Reds, all of their backs and a lot of their forwards now, their timing's so good with hitting. And for me, tackling, your number one thing is timing. If you get the timing right, you can tackle anyone.
Exactly.
And there's probably like 2 or 3 principles that I sort of work on to make easy tackles.
Yep.
People think defence is to stop the opposition. Defence is to get the ball back.
Yeah.
So you get the ball back, your attacking weapons get to score tries.
That's it.
So for me, it was always about how I measure myself not on tries because I didn't score a lot, because I wasn't very good at that. But I could measure myself on turnovers, pilfers, or where I was able to influence getting a drop ball or whatever that was. So yeah, that it was exciting for years.
I could imagine, and like the momentum as well. Like we especially in Queensland, we don't have as much excitement, I would say, as especially around that time. Like it must have been absolutely bonkers for the Reds just to be like every weekend, if you were playing at Suncorp, like everyone's going to be there. And that grand final especially, like I was there that night and that stadium was just packed to the rafters.
It's funny you say that because throughout from 2010 to 14, you asked me what any of the scores, even the grand final score, I really can't remember, but you asked me where we went out or when we went drinking, where our families came, and we had some of the best times as a group.
Yeah, I could imagine, because everyone's keen to see you. Like,
well, it was just good. We spent so much time together. Outside of your families, we would nearly spend more time, on the road, as a team for 6 months, and then with the Wallabies for 6 months. So you're together so much.
Of course.
So we, I remember the times going out drinking. That was just, they're the most memorable times I had from rugby.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was just so exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And funny you say that. I was going to ask you. So after, in the light of also, because now these days, like the celebrations after the grand finals are sort of like promoted and whatnot. Like you got silly Arsi Vunivalu and stuff, all with the ski goggles and everything going, and like the Richmond Tigers partying with Fisher and stuff. How was that night after the grand final? Did you boys just head out in Brisbane, or was it a lock-in sesh?
We were lucky. We didn't lock in. We invited all of our family back to the Normby at that time, and they sort of looked after us for quite a few years, and they were the major sponsor. All of our families were there. So we invited family. We got there. I remember singing the Reds song. We had guys, pouring drinks down family
Even
throats.
the families would be just excited.
There were people behind the bar, like players behind the bar serving drinks. And it was such a good time. There was no riff-raff. Like, when I say riff-raff, there was no argument. It was just such a good time.
Just
everyone was
celebrations,
there. That's right. And it was so good to see our families, how hard we'd worked to get there.
Exactly, you get to share it with them.
That's right. And the coaches, all of our family and friends and girlfriends at that time, it was such a good time and a good night.
I'm sure Bo Robinson would have dug into a few beers that night.
Yeah, well, we played Saturday and we're on the bus, I think the Monday morning, because we had to go. So, we drank Saturday night, Sunday morning, on the bus. We might have been on the bus Sunday night because we had to play Samoa the following weekend.
All right. So you guys are like, oh, shit, we're going to pull the handbrakes on at some point.
Well, we didn't. Some of the guys didn't. I think they got into camp a bit dusty. For sure. And hence that was the reason why we were a bit dusty against Samoa and we lost that game.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's a shocker.
Actually...
Was that when Tuilagi was going off at that point?
Yeah, that's when Rod Davis had we were always big on, like, you never want to make the opposition's highlights.
Reel. It's like getting posterized in the NBA. Yep. You don't want to be on that poster.
So Rod made the highlights.
He's on Tuilagi's wall now.
Yep, he is. He's made his highlights and his YouTube clips.
Yeah. Here comes the boom. You don't want to hear that with you getting bumped. But yeah, because I remember, I think you were about to say, and then you guys had the parade as well after.
Yeah, we did. That was the keys to the city.
Yep.
We didn't get the keys to anything. But it was a nice gesture.
It doesn't open much.
No, it didn't open a whole lot except for our until Fridays. Opened up Fridays.
That's it.
And that's all we wanted to go anyway.
I remember I saw because we went to that one there because we were still young and we were keen to head out to it all. And I remember after the parade was done, we went over to Hungry Jack's in the city there, and there was a few of the boys that were in there, and they all just looked rusty ass. And I've got this photo with Ben Tapawai, and he's wearing the sunnies. He's not even smiling. He's just like, just hurting at that point.
It might have been the instructions of some of the coaching staff to get some food in our bodies,
that's
in our stomachs before we leave for camp.
The HJs will get you ready. Brilliant. So then, obviously, you made your debut for the Wallabies in 2010, I believe.
Yes.
You came off the bench against the All Blacks, but then the following week you were starting in Melbourne. Mate, I pulled it up and I was just like looking at the actual team list because I think people forget how ridiculous it was. Like for your debut, you're going against Kevin Mialamu, Brad Thorne, Jerome Kano, Richie McCaw, Kieran Reid, Piri Weepu, Dan Carter, Joe Rokokoko, Ma Nonu, Mills Muliaina, and the list goes on. It's an absolutely terrifying bloody team to go up against. At that point, were you already kind of used to it, I suppose, playing them on that Super Rugby level? Or at that point, was it with the excitement of playing for Australia and everything like that? Did it feel like a bigger moment at that time?
It was a huge moment. Like, I remember singing the national anthem with Saya, then watching the haka together with Saya. It was huge for us and our family to... we thought as kids that we would never be able to play for our state, and then to play for your country together was just... we just never thought two kids from Queanbeyan, hustling, bussing around, and just that could never happen to us. We're not that lucky. So to do that, I remember it was such a big moment. And I think for Sarah and I, whenever we got onto rugby field, we never, it was just this shorts and socks for the opposition and us. Like, it didn't matter who anyone was.
Exactly.
So if I read that when I was looking at the pre-game, booklet, I went, oh geez, that was something I never really did. I sort of would just get in there, really focus. That's it, and just focus on what I had to do. I would know what Nonu or Sonny Bill or Mills were going to do and play. We still lost that game. It was a tough old game though. Like, it was a really tough game. But I remember that was my first game, and my first starting game anyway. And that's the first time my old man had ever said, "Oh, you played a good game." And I was like, "No, Dad, no." Like, I'd played so many other games and we lost this game. But in hindsight, it kind of pushed us to do better and bigger things. So,
sure.
Which was good.
Yeah, definitely. And then we've moved on as well, and then you're into the Rugby World Cup in 2011 after the season, obviously. Can you explain the energy of what that was like in New Zealand? Because I think people don't realise, because I've been on a few footy tours in New Zealand, and you look up the billboards, it's Dan Carter in Bonds undies. Like, you go somewhere else, like, everyone's walking around in All Blacks jerseys. Like, it's religion over there. So I could only imagine what the World Cup was like at that time.
It was, we got off the flight, and our immigration stamp was the World Cup logo.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I was like, oh geez, like, we're here to play.
Yeah, this is it.
And then there was a parade, and we were staying right in the city of Auckland. And I remember walking down the street, and we were just going to get something to eat, Sarah and I and a few of the guys, and they were just like, F off back to Australia. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like,
keep the head down.
We're here for a sport. And I remember, like, for 3 months, we just got heckled the whole time.
Imagine.
And we couldn't go anywhere without, and I don't know, it had like a bit of, like, for me, it was a bit of a bad taste after leaving, because we got heckled so bad until we lost that quarterfinal.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine what Quade went through, because it was pretty tough there for him. He was, and the week before, I think we had played the last Tri-Nations game, and Quadey pushed Richie's head into the ground.
That's right. So
and it was just, so we went over there.
Enemy number one, Quade Cooper.
Yeah, it was like him and then Hitler. Like, it was awful. Like, so poor Quadey, and I just, it was, but at the same time, it just made the environment. It was, I tell you what, we trained and played at some of the best venues, and the crowds that used to come and watch you play, and going to games or trying to get anywhere was tough. It was real cool. It was really cool.
Sure, it would have been awesome, like, looking back on it. But I'm sure at the time you're like, get me out of this place.
Yeah, it was tough.
All good. So then we've moved on, and then towards the back end of your career, obviously, it ended up ending due to a series of concussions and whatnot. And to be honest with you, you were one of the first footy players that I've ever seen actually come out and really speak about it. I mean, like, you see it in movies like Concussion, and the NFL talks about it a fair bit now, just because of now we're actually researching it and whatnot. I just wanted to, like, talk to you about that. Like, for me, I think I said to you on the phone earlier, like, I played 7 my whole life, so my head is always where it shouldn't belong, and so I'm copping hits left, right, and centre. But last year was the first time for me that I'd really copped, like, that I felt like the after effects of it. You know what I mean? We had a training out at UQ on the car park up there. They've got like a fake turf over it, so it's basically just concrete underneath. It's meant for like futsal and stuff, and I just got whacked down there. But it felt like, because I work in an office, and like the week and so after, like, the lights are playing with me. I was having like real trouble like getting through my work. I felt like there was just basically like a cloudiness over me, and I ended up getting a couple more concussions like not far after that.
Sure.
But like, the thing that I noticed was that no one could really ever give me a clear answer of what the right thing was to do. I mean, you've got it's hard when you've got an injury that you can't see. So like when you do your knee or whatever, you've got a brace. Everyone knows Anthony's out for a couple of weeks or whatever.
But you can scan it, you can see it.
Yeah, for sure.
There's tendons all over the place.
Exactly, but when you do these MRIs, they pretty much check for brain bleeding, and that's about it. You can't tell these effects until you pretty much are dead. And with that, was there any point in time where you were kind of going like, when you were copping these hits, because you were such a hard hitter, I could imagine that it was happening quite regularly. Like, were there any points where you were going like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't be playing this game this week, or were you were pretty much on top of it the whole time?
No, I wasn't on top of it.
No,
but would I have said that I think the hardest thing for people, like, people got to remember that's all I knew.
Exactly.
So for me, I loved playing the sport, and rugby's all I knew. And would I take it back? And if I had my time again, would I take it back and not play as hard, or would I have stopped earlier? No way.
Of course.
So I'm so lucky that rugby has given me the opportunity to have a really good job, meet the people that I've met, go to a fantastic school. The network that you have in rugby is just so good, and they look after you throughout the whole your whole life. They're still doing it now for me. Obviously, I had some really big head knocks throughout my whole career, and starting even before 2010, or even when I started the Brumbies, and I've probably spent over a year in a dark room. I remember I got a really bad head knock. I lifted my head up, and I hit Richie McCaw's the top of his head with my forehead, and I felt okay. The ball went left, and then it comes back right. I made another tackle, and as Israel Dag was jumping over to support the play, he kicks me in the face. I get a little bit of a stinger again, and then I get back to my feet, run, they score, and then I feel okay. The doc comes over and drags me and says, mate, you're out. I passed the concussion test in the afternoon, passed it the next day, and then that afternoon, on the Sunday afternoon, I couldn't see, I couldn't talk, couldn't walk.
Yeah.
For 3 months, so 3.5 months, I probably spent at home in a dark room.
That's scary at that point, like, for sure.
Yeah. So for me, that was scary, and I didn't know what I would do, whether or not I'd keep going. But I kept going. I played for another 4 more years, and then went to Japan. And then it started to unfold a little when I got injured with my knee, and then I felt this anyone that's ever had a small head knock or a big head knock, they start to feel that out of body feeling, or you've been stung, or you can't see, you've got blurriness, or your eyes are starting to hurt. That's kind of the feeling I was getting all the time.
Yeah.
So I thought, geez, I need to fix this. And I've got a couple of young girls, Malia and Gia, who were at the time 2 and 1, and I thought, geez, I need to look after them. My next career will be much longer than my rugby career.
Of course.
But if I didn't have my girls, I go and I keep playing on.
Yeah, for sure.
So at the same time, it wasn't worth it at that time in my life. So I retired. But again, I have to reflect. My rugby career was very, very good in terms of what I did. But I was very fortunate and lucky to play a great sport with some really awesome people.
And then, it sounds like you got out at the right time at that stage as well. Obviously, you'd still want to play because you feel it's tough when you physically can as well. Like when you're feeling fit and you're ready to go, and then you've got other people going like, "Oh no, like you shouldn't do it." But
no, but I think you're right in terms of people can't see. You can't see it, you can't feel it. No one can say if it's concussion or not.
Yeah.
I remember coming back and I felt a little dizzy. I went into emergency. They checked me and they started getting me into scrubs, ready to operate on me. They've got all my red and white blood cells all checked. They thought I had a tumour. He goes, the emergency doctor goes, "Oh, Ant, I think you've got a tumour in your brain. We'll prep you for surgery." They put me on the bed. I jump up on the bed. I'm going, geez, this is getting real now. The surgeon comes in, looks at the scan. Another surgeon comes in, looks at it. They go, geez, mate, you've just got post-concussion syndrome. I said, hold on. So you've prepped my head for surgery.
On me.
You've got 2 surgeons in here. I've got the emergency doc going, "Oh, Ant, I think you might have a tumour." And then I walk out of there the next morning.
Oh, God, not doing a lobotomy on you.
Yeah, that's right. But for me, they're kind of some of the little things that I've had to go through.
Yeah.
and that's happened twice to me. So for me, it's just making sure I can manage all the things that I can and keep in my control. So my diet, my exercise, all the little things. Sometimes even running, that shake around my head, sometimes
jolting.
So sometimes that makes me feel a little bit lightheaded.
And you just got to know when to pull up stumps.
Yes, I still think it's because I'm unfit, not because I've got concussion syndrome. But who knows?
Exactly.
Until we do more tests, until there's more diagnosis and more people coming out.
Sure.
The only way that they'll know is if they cut my head open, apparently. So
I've saw that you've mentioned that you are going to be donating your brain to science.
Yeah, I will. And I think it's the right. Well, for me personally, I think that's the best thing for study and for the younger guys coming through to help prevent some of the concussions. And if I can help younger generations, then I hope so, because I want kids playing rugby,
of course,
or contact sport forever, because I know I go to the sports to watch contact.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't take it out of the game. Let's be real. I'm all for organised violence, and that's why it's bloody great for it. You can get good hits on, and that's what makes the game entertaining. It's just more so, I guess, that they can figure out potentially early symptoms in people before they get to that point where serious damage is done.
I reckon that's spot on. And managing the risk, I found it wasn't the games that I copped a lot of my head knocks. It was more the training. Straight
afterwards, for sure. And that's what happened with me as well. It ended up just being placing a ball, as you said, just the jolt of it, and you just go oh, that's not right. But
the training ones, you get little bangs, and what are you going to do? Run until your coach, I feel a little bit dizzy, I've got a head knock, or I've bumped heads with Johnny Smith. I think I might need to sit out. No way, the coach is going to get back in.
Fucking there.
Don't waste my time. Do you want to play first grade today, or do you want to play reserve grade? I'm like, oh, geez, I know where I want to play. What do I do? So that's the hard situation.
Especially when it's your job as well. The last thing you want to go to Ewan McKenzie, I'm like, oh, hey, mate, I'm taking this week off. He's going to be like, yeah, right.
And I was a
gig.
Well, that's right. So I was a repeat offender for hiding injuries.
Yep.
I would say I'm a repeat offender. So you asked me, I get a head knock on the weekend, am I okay on Monday? 100%.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Because if I let someone else get that opportunity to play in my position, I may never get it back.
Exactly, for sure.
So, there's so many people, especially young, good players coming through that are snapping at you.
Screaming to get there.
That's right. And everyone wants to be a professional athlete. So all it takes is for them to have one good game, and then you may never get your spot again. So for me, it was just making sure that if I was half okay, I'm playing. Yeah,
that's it. Oh, well, brilliant. That's all good. So now, after that, you finished up your footy career, and it sounds like you got a lot going on now post-footy. You mentioned to me just before you're working with your insurance company, and that sort of took place after footy there. So was there anything that you were kind of doing on the side or anything while you're playing rugby, or was it more so just once I'm done, I'm going to jump in and see what I can find out?
So my very first paycheck, myself and Saya, my parents guarantored, and they guaranteed their home for Sarah and I. We bought a block of units.
Oh, nice.
And then every weekend we spent painting and lipsticking, the kitchens and just little things that we would pay. Most of the people in Canberra, they go into two industries, public service or construction.
Yeah.
So a lot of the boys were still, tradies, or apprentices. So we would give them a case of beer or a few $100, and they would come and do
the apartments.
That's it. So they helped us, and that sort of gave us our start. And then from then on, throughout our whole rugby careers, we sort of did a bit of building where we subdivide and split blocks, or buy the land and sell them off. Get DAs and sell them on. And then we're still going into that. And with Sayer now, he has a construction arm where he does, which is an Indigenous construction company, Munya Services. And then we have Mudgee, which is an Indigenous furniture company.
Yep,
and then,
where we are right now.
Yeah, that's it. So, so we have those two companies, and then I work in the construction insurance at BCS. And for me, it's been such a great thing to be a part of. And I think my whole rugby career, and there's lots of lessons that I learnt in rugby that I take into what I do now. And that's, I can't be good at everything. I was never good at attack or defence, or I just picked one thing and try to be the very best at that. And I'm not trying to do mum and dad and every Johnny Smith's car and whatever. I stick to the construction. And I try to be the very best in that construction insurance industry. And the same with Say, he looks after all the Indigenous and goes up to government and private tenders and builds like that. And then with the furniture, that's a byproduct of doing the construction.
Yeah, awesome. Stick to what you know is the message. Yeah. And then, you also teamed up with AFA as well, and Ricky here. So you're on the board at AFA. And do you still have like a relationship with the Reds in regards to like talking to any younger players and stuff now? Or do you know any of those boys anymore? Or you're kind of out the door for now?
Yeah, I tried to make sure I was really at the door.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is, I didn't want to retire from rugby to get back in.
Yeah.
And just, I felt a lot of players try to keep sticking in there. I wanted to finish rugby and then separate and just become really good at my next journey.
Of your life. Yeah.
That's right. And focus really big on that next journey. And Rick gave us the opportunity to sort of come in at with AFA and sit at the board there, and for me it's really good listening to how proactive he is, and starting up the AFA and the team that we have in the UK here. We've got players all over the world, and it's just so amazing to see what hard work can do.
Yeah, for sure.
And for me, I was never the most talented, and I will say that's why I was the worst investment at Queensland Rugby, but I worked hard. So for me, I see that, and Rick works super hard, and for me, that's something that I love in people and anything we do. So to be part of AFA is just freaking awesome.
Brilliant. Well, the train's steaming ahead. We're not here to take part, we're here to take over.
I love it.
Oh, brilliant, mate. Well, awesome. Looks like we've gotten through everything. I really appreciate you coming out. We'll do a couple ad reads after, but yeah, mate. Cheers for coming out.
Thank you so much for having us along.
Thanks, Anthony. Rightio, if you haven't already, jump on to AFA or Advisors for Athlete on Instagram. Give us a like on Facebook, and also subscribe on our YouTube channel, AFA TV. Brilliant. All good. Thanks, guys.